The red dust of Mars swirled gently against the massive dome's transparent walls. Inside, the gardens bloomed with Earth's colors: green leaves, red roses, and golden wheat swaying in the artificial breeze. It was the 50th anniversary of humanity's first permanent Mars colony, and the celebration was in full swing. Jack stood near the center fountain, his small hands holding a paper airplane. At 8 years old, he was part of the first generation born on Mars. His blue eyes sparkled with joy as he watched his creation soar through the carefully maintained air currents of the biodome. "Hey, watch this," he called out to his friends. The other children gathered around as Jack prepared to launch his biggest paper airplane yet. He had spent all morning folding it just right, following instructions from an old Earth book his father had given him. Above the dome, unknown to the celebrating colonists below, space itself seemed to tear open. 3 massive ships emerged, their dark hulls absorbing the sunlight rather than reflecting it. Each vessel was larger than Earth's biggest space stations, and they moved with an unnatural grace that defied human understanding of physics. The colony's sensors blared to life. Warning signals flashed across every screen in the administrative section, but the celebration in the garden dome continued. The children were too focused on their games to notice the sudden rush of adults checking their communication devices. The alien ships took position above the colony. Their message, when it came, was broadcast on all frequencies. "We are the Star Collective. This system falls within our expansion zone. As per Protocol 557, we will demonstrate our superior capabilities. Please observe and acknowledge your position in the galactic hierarchy." Colony Administrator Tom rushed to the communication center, his hand shaking as he tried to establish contact. "This is Mars Colony 1. We are a peaceful settlement. Please allow us time to contact Earth authorities for proper diplomatic." He never finished the sentence. The Star Collective had already begun their demonstration. Their weapon was meant to hit the colony's power plant, a warning shot to show their precision and power. But something went wrong. Later, investigations would show a simple mathematical error in converting their targeting systems to account for Mars' gravity. The beam of energy, bright enough to turn night into day, struck the garden dome instead. Time seemed to slow down. Jack looked up from his paper airplane, his eyes widening at the strange light above. In that final moment, he wasn't afraid, just curious, like any child would be at seeing something new and wonderful. The dome shattered. The carefully maintained atmosphere rushed out into the thin Martian air. Emergency force fields activated, but they were designed for slow leaks, not catastrophic failure. Jack and 5 other children were caught in the devastating combination of explosive decompression and weapon energy. It was over in seconds. The Star Collective's response was immediate, but not in the way humanity would have hoped. Our demonstration experienced a minor targeting deviation. The loss of juvenile specimens is unfortunate, but falls within acceptable parameters for first contact protocols. Please acknowledge your understanding of our superior position. In the aftermath, as emergency teams rushed to secure the colony and treat the survivors, Jack's father found his son's paper airplane. It had somehow survived, protected by falling debris. He held it with trembling hands as tears froze on his face in the now thin atmosphere. The news reached Earth within minutes. Billions watched the footage from the dome's security cameras. They saw Jack's final curious look, the other children's last moments, and the casual way the Star Collective dismissed their deaths. In offices, homes, and spacecraft across the solar system, humans watched in silence. Then that silence turned to something else. Something that would make the Star Collective regret their minor targeting deviation. Humanity had been relatively peaceful for decades, but as images of Jack's paper airplane, now a symbol of lost innocence, spread across every news channel and social feed, that peace began to crumble. Earth was going to respond, and the Star Collective was about to learn why you should never harm a human child. The United Earth Government building in Geneva had never been so quiet. On the massive screen before them, the paper airplane spun slowly in 3D, rotating as analysts pointed out the child-sized fingerprints still visible on its creased surface. Jack's last creation had become humanity's call to arms. "They called them juvenile specimens," said Admiral West, his voice shaking with barely controlled anger. The old military man had seen his share of battles, but this was different. "They killed our children and called it acceptable parameters." The room, filled with 200 of Earth's most powerful leaders, remained silent. The paper airplane continued its slow spin on the screen, now joined by pictures of the other 5 children lost in the attack. 6 young lives ended because of a targeting error that the Star Collective didn't even apologize for. Dr. Emma, head of Earth's Advanced Physics Division, stood up. Her gray hair was messy, and dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept since the incident. "We've analyzed their weapons technology from the Mars attack. They're advanced, yes, but not unbeatable. But we need to think bigger. Much bigger." She pressed a button, and the display changed to show Mercury, the smallest planet in the solar system. "We've been studying Mercury's core for years. With the right technology, we could." She paused, looking around the room. What she was about to suggest would change humanity forever. "We could turn Mercury into a warship." The silence broke. Shouts of disbelief filled the room. Converting a planet into a ship, it seemed impossible. But as Dr. Emma began explaining the details, the shouting died down. One by one, the world's leaders leaned forward, listening intently. "Mercury's iron core could power engines beyond anything we've built before. Its surface could be converted into armor and weapons systems. We have the technology. We just never had a reason to try something this ambitious before." The project would require every resource Earth had. Every nation would need to work together. Millions of workers, all of Earth's advanced technology. But as Dr. Emma spoke, something changed in the room. The grief that had paralyzed humanity began to transform into purpose. "The Star Collective thinks they can kill our children and call it a parameter," Admiral West said, standing up. "Let's show them some parameters of our own." The vote was unanimous. For the first time in human history, every nation agreed to a single goal. Operation Mountain would begin immediately. News spread across Earth and its colonies. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Engineers abandoned private projects to join the effort. Former rival nations shared their most secret technologies. Throughout it all, the image of Jack's paper airplane appeared everywhere, on posters, in videos, on the sides of construction vehicles. The Star Collective sent messages asking for diplomatic meetings. Earth's response was simple: a video of the children's final moments, played on loop. When the aliens tried to explain their protocols and customs, Earth simply cut off all communication. Dr. Emma worked day and night with her team, designing systems that had never existed before. "The engines will use Mercury's magnetic field," she explained to the project leaders. "We'll need to hollow out significant portions of the planet, but we can use that material for the outer armor." Admiral West focused on the weapon systems. "If they think a single energy beam is impressive, wait until they see what a planet-sized cannon can do." Construction ships began heading to Mercury in an endless stream. Earth's moon became a staging area, its surface covered in supply depots and construction bases. The largest engineering project in human history was beginning. The Star Collective watched from a distance, their sensors recording the massive movement of ships and resources. They still didn't understand. They had followed their protocols perfectly. How could the death of a few young humans trigger such an unprecedented response? They were about to learn that humanity's love for its children was stronger than any protocol. And that love was about to take the shape of a planet-sized warship. 3 years passed in a blur of constant construction. Mercury's surface had become unrecognizable, its entire face covered in scaffolding that stretched into space. Millions of workers moved across its transformed landscape like ants building a mountain. "The core is almost hollow now," Dr. Emma reported to the project leaders. Her hair had turned completely white over the past 3 years, but her eyes burned with the same determination. We're replacing it with the main engine systems. Every piece of technology we've ever developed has led to this moment. Through the viewing window of the command station, they watched as massive drills pulled out the last sections of Mercury's original core. Each drill was the size of a small city, their diamond-tipped heads glowing red-hot as they worked. Behind them, construction crews immediately began installing the new engine parts. The Star Collective's observers had maintained their distance, watching with growing concern. Their sensors detected energy readings that went beyond their understanding. The humans weren't just building weapons. They were rewriting the laws of physics. "Look at this," Admiral West said, pointing to a recent scan of the alien ships. "They've called for reinforcements 3 times now. They still think this is just a big weapon." He smiled grimly. "They have no idea what we're really building." The outer layer of Mercury now consisted of 50 levels of armor, each plate made from materials that hadn't existed 3 years ago. Between the layers, weapon systems waited silently. Some were simple, planet-sized versions of standard guns. Others were so advanced that only 5 people knew how they worked. In what used to be Mercury's northern pole, a special chamber was nearing completion. Its walls were lined with screens showing children playing, images collected from across human space. In the center, protected by the strongest force field ever created, stood Jack's paper airplane, preserved exactly as it had been found on Mars. "The memorial chamber will be the heart of the ship," Dr. Emmett explained to a group of new engineers. "Every crew member will pass through it during their shift change. Every decision we make, every action we take, will happen under the eyes of those we lost." The workers had developed their own traditions over the years. Each piece of armor plate was stamped with a child's handprint before being installed. The engine crews wrote children's names on crucial components. Every worker carried a small paper airplane somewhere on their uniform. Deep inside the transformed planet, the main control room took shape. It was larger than most cities, filled with enough technology to run 1,000 normal spaceships. But this was no normal ship. This was humanity's response to an unforgivable act. "Power systems at 60% and rising," reported the engineering team. "The gravity drives are responding better than we hoped. We might actually be able to move faster than the original plan suggested." The Star Collective sent another diplomatic message. "We observe your construction project with concern. Please be advised that any aggressive action will be met with appropriate force according to Protocol 779. Admiral West played the message for the command crew, and for the first time in 3 years, laughter filled the control room. The aliens still didn't understand. They thought their protocols and superior technology would protect them. "Initial weapon test ready," announced the weapons control team. They had chosen a small asteroid for the demonstration. At their command, a tiny fraction of one weapon system activated. The asteroid didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. Dr. Emma checked the final calculations one more time. "The engines are ready. Life support is stable across all levels. The defensive systems are operational." She looked up at the massive screens showing various sections of their creation. "We can begin final preparations for launch." Around what used to be Mercury, construction ships began pulling away. The scaffolding detached in massive sections. Piece by piece, humanity's greatest creation was revealed. A planet turned into a warship, built by a species pushed too far. The Star Collective was about to learn that their protocols meant nothing compared to a parent's love for their child. And this love had taken the form of the largest warship in the history of the galaxy. The day Mercury vanished, every telescope in the solar system was watching. One moment, the planet was there, its surface gleaming with new armor and weapons. The next moment, a flash of light brighter than the sun itself filled space. When the light faded, Mercury was gone. In its place floated humanity's answer to the Star Collective. The ship was planetary in size, but its surface was no longer the dull gray of Mercury. Instead, it shone with a dark, metallic purpose. Weapon ports large enough to swallow small moons lined its surface. The engines, now fully powered, created a blue glow that seemed to bend space itself. "All systems operational," Dr. Emma announced from the main control room. Her voice echoed through chambers that stretched for thousands of miles inside the transformed planet. "Artificial gravity stable. Power levels at maximum. The child's justice is ready." The name had been chosen by unanimous vote. Every surface of the massive ship bore those words in letters tall enough to be seen from space. "Child's justice." "Begin primary engine test," ordered Admiral West. He stood before the memorial chamber's entrance, where Jack's paper airplane spun slowly in its protective field. "Let's show them what we've built." The engine activation sent ripples through space that reached all the way to Saturn. The gas giant's famous rings wavered like water disturbed by a stone. On Earth, people watched their screens in awe as the readings came in. The power output was beyond anything humanity had ever measured. The Star Collective's observation ships finally realized what they were seeing. Their sensors, designed to measure normal spacecraft, simply couldn't process the readings they were getting. In panic, they sent an urgent message to their leadership. "The humans have done something impossible." Inside Child's Justice, millions of crew members moved through corridors that stretched for hundreds of miles. Each one passed through the memorial chamber during their shift, seeing the faces of the children they had come to avenge. Each one carried a paper airplane somewhere on their uniform. "Preparing for first jump test," announced the navigation team. The ship's jump drive was large enough to move a planet between stars. Nothing like it had ever been built before. Dr. Emma watched the power readings climb. All departments braced for jump in 10 seconds. The countdown reached 0. Child's Justice seemed to stretch for a moment, its massive form elongating impossibly. Then it vanished. It reappeared exactly 1 light-year away. The jump had taken less than a second. The Star Collective's sensors detected a distortion in space-time itself. The fabric of the universe had rippled from the sheer power of the ship's movement. "Jump test successful," reported Dr. Emma, her voice steady despite the historic moment. "All systems functioning at optimal levels. We can go anywhere in the galaxy." The Star Collective's leadership sent an urgent message. "We request immediate diplomatic discussion. Our protocols allow for negotiation in unprecedented situations." Admiral West played the message for the entire crew. Then he played the recording from Mars again, the moment when the Star Collective had dismissed the deaths of human children as acceptable parameters. "Send our response," he ordered. Child's Justice's communication array activated. Across every frequency, in every language known to the galaxy, the ship broadcast a single message. "No more protocols. No more parameters. We are coming." The Star Collective's ships began to scatter, fleeing in different directions. They finally understood what they had awakened. This wasn't just a weapon or a ship. This was the physical form of humanity's love for its children, turned into a force of vengeance. "Plot a course to their nearest major fleet," Admiral West commanded. "Let's show them exactly what humanity does when someone harms our children." Child's Justice's engines flared to life. The massive ship turned with impossible grace, its weapon ports beginning to glow. The hunt was about to begin, and the Star Collective was about to learn why every species in the galaxy would soon have a new rule: never harm a human child. The Star Collective's ships looked like toys compared to Child's Justice. Their largest battleship, once considered the most powerful vessel in known space, was smaller than one of the human warship's weapon ports. Yet still they tried to fight. "Enemy fleet detected," announced the sensor crew. "They're attempting to surround us with 300 ships." Admiral West watched the tactical display, where the alien vessels appeared as tiny dots around his massive command. On the screen beside him, images from Mars played in a silent loop, a reminder of why they were here. "They're sending another message," reported the communications officer. "Multiple alien species are offering to act as peace negotiators." Dr. Emma stood at her station, checking the weapon systems. "Should we respond this time?" "Send them our standard reply," Admiral West ordered. Throughout the galaxy, Every communication device received the same message, just 5 words long. We are not here to negotiate. The star-collected ships began complicated evasive maneuvers, splitting into smaller groups. Their tactics had won them countless battles in the past, but they had never faced anything like child's justice. They're trying to confuse our targeting systems, observed Dr. Emma. They don't understand what we've built. She turned to Admiral West. Should we show them? The Admiral nodded. Time for the first demonstration. No weapons. Just pass by their defense fleet. Child's Justice moved. Despite its enormous size, it accelerated with impossible grace. The ship approached the largest group of star collective vessels, passing within 1,000 kilometers, close range in space terms. The effects were immediate. The gravitational wake of the planet-sized ship caught the alien vessels like leaves in a hurricane. Their shields, designed to stop energy weapons and missiles, meant nothing against the raw gravitational force of Child's Justice's dry system. 50 star collective ships were pulled apart, their pieces scattered across space. The human ship hadn't fired a single shot. Enemy fleet is retreating, reported Tactical. They're sending distress signals in all directions. Inside Child's Justice, crew members went about their duties with grim determination. Each one wore a small paper airplane pin, a reminder of Jack and the other children. Each one had watched the Mars footage during their training. Each one was ready to show the galaxy why humanity had turned a planet into a weapon. We're tracking their main fleet, announced Navigation. They're trying to hide in the dust clouds of the Horsehead Nebula. Admiral West smiled. They still think like a normal military force. He turned to Dr. Emma. Power up the main searchlights. Child's Justice activated exterior illumination panels bigger than continents. The light they produced could be seen from other galaxies. The dust clouds of the nebula lit up like day, revealing every hiding ship. More diplomatic requests coming in, communications reported. The Galactic Council is offering immediate membership to Earth if we'll stop our advance. Dr. Emma checked her readings. The Star Collective's home system is 3,000 light-years away. At our current speed, we can be there in. She paused, double-checking the numbers. 4 hours. The Star Collective tried one last desperate tactic. They positioned civilian ships in Child's Justice's path, expecting the humans to show mercy. Moving to weapon range, Tactical announced. Should we target the civilian vessels? Admiral West stood and walked to the memorial chamber. He looked at the faces of the children lost on Mars, at Jack's paper airplane spinning slowly in its field. Plot a course around the civilian ships, he ordered. We're not like them. We don't harm innocents. His voice hardened. But send them a message. Tell them that for every minute they delay us with these tactics, we'll add another Star Collective military base to our target list. The civilian ships quickly moved aside. Child's Justice continued its advance, unstoppable as fate itself. In its wake, a new message began spreading through the galaxy. Never stand between humanity and justice for its children. The hunt for those responsible was nearing its end. The Star Collective was about to learn the true meaning of acceptable parameters. The Star Collective's home system came into view. Their capital world glowed blue-green, surrounded by defensive rings that had protected it for 1,000 years. Ships of all sizes formed a desperate last line of defense. Behind them, millions of citizens watched the approach of Child's Justice with terror. We have arrived at target destination, announced Navigation. The massive ship came to a stop, its shadow covering half the alien world below. Admiral West stood in the command center, his uniform decorated with a single paper airplane pin. Open all communication channels. Let everyone hear. Dr. Emma's fingers moved across her control panel. We're broadcasting on all frequencies in all known languages. Even their deepest bunkers will hear us. The Admiral's voice echoed across an entire solar system. This is Child's Justice. 3 years ago, your people killed human children and called it acceptable parameters. We are here for those responsible. You have 1 hour to deliver them, or we demonstrate our main weapon. The Star Collective's leaders gathered in their Grand Council chamber. Their voices rose in panic as they argued about ancient protocols and customs. We followed the proper procedures. It was a standard first contact demonstration. How were we to know they would react this way? On their screens, Child's Justice waited silently. Its weapon ports remained closed, but its very presence was enough to make the bravest admiral tremble. Incoming transmission from their leadership, reported communications. They say their protocols don't allow them to surrender individuals for actions taken under official orders. Admiral West nodded to Dr. Emma. Show them what we can do. Child's Justice's smallest weapon port opened. Energy gathered at its tip, forming a point of light brighter than their sun. The beam that emerged was precisely controlled, perfectly aimed. One of the Star Collective's moons vanished. Not exploded, not destroyed. It simply ceased to exist. Where a celestial body had orbited for billions of years, only empty space remained. That was our lowest power setting. Admiral West announced to the stunned aliens, "You have 55 minutes remaining." Panic spread through the Star Collective's ranks. Their sensors couldn't even understand what had happened to their moon. This went beyond technology. It was like the humans had learned to rewrite the laws of physics. Inside the memorial chamber of Child's Justice, Jack's paper airplane continued its eternal spin. Around it, the faces of the lost children watched as humanity's vengeance neared its end. 40 minutes remaining, Dr. Emma announced. Their leaders are still debating. Admiral West touched his paper airplane pin. Open a channel again. His voice boomed across space once more. For every minute you delay, we will remove another moon. When we run out of moons, we move on to planets. Your protocols mean nothing to us. The Star Collective's defenses began powering down. Their ships moved aside. On the surface of their world, crowds gathered in the streets, watching the human vessel that had turned their military might into nothing. We have movement, Tactical reported. A small transport is launching from their government center. The transport approached Child's Justice slowly. Inside were 10 Star Collective officials, the ones who had planned and executed the first contact demonstration that had killed Jack and the other children. They're surrendering themselves. Communications confirmed. They've signed full confessions. Admiral West looked at the tactical display, where the Star Collective's remaining moons hung in space. He thought of the children in the Mars Dome, of their final curious looks at the light that would end their lives. Bring them aboard, he ordered. They will face human justice. He turned to Dr. Emma. Power down the main weapons, but leave them on standby, just in case they need another demonstration of our parameters. Throughout the galaxy, news spread quickly. Humanity had moved a planet across space to avenge their children. The Star Collective's mighty protocols meant nothing in the face of human determination. And in orbit around their capital world, Child's Justice waited silently, a constant reminder of what happens when you harm what humanity holds most precious. The Star Collective's home system came into view. Their capital world glowed blue-green, surrounded by defensive rings that had protected it for 1,000 years. Ships of all sizes formed a desperate last line of defense. Behind them, millions of citizens watched the approach of Child's Justice with terror. We have arrived at target destination, announced navigation. The massive ship came to a stop, its shadow covering half the alien world below. Admiral West stood in the command center, his uniform decorated with a single paper airplane pin. Open all communication channels. Let everyone hear. Dr. Emma's fingers moved across her control panel. We're broadcasting on all frequencies, in all known languages. Even their deepest bunkers will hear us. The Admiral's voice echoed across an entire solar system. This is Child's Justice. 3 years ago, your people killed human children and called it acceptable parameters. We are here for those responsible. You have 1 hour to deliver them, or we demonstrate our main weapon. The Star Collective's leaders gathered in their Grand Council chamber. Their voices rose in panic as they argued about ancient protocols and customs. We followed the proper procedures. It was a standard first contact demonstration. How were we to know they would react this way? On their screens, Child's Justice waited silently. Its weapon ports remained closed, but its very presence was enough to make the bravest admiral tremble. Incoming transmission from their leadership, reported communications. They say their protocols don't allow them to surrender individuals for actions taken under official orders. Admiral West nodded to Dr. Emma. Show them what we can do. Child's Justice's smallest weapon port opened. Energy gathered at its tip, forming a point of light brighter than their sun. The beam that emerged was precisely controlled, perfectly aimed. One of the Star Collective's moons vanished. Not exploded, not destroyed. It simply ceased to exist. Where a celestial body had orbited for billions of years, only empty space remained. That was our lowest power setting. Admiral West announced to the stunned aliens, "You have 55 minutes remaining." Panic spread through the Star Collective's ranks. Their sensors couldn't even understand what had happened to their moon. This went beyond technology. It was like the humans had learned to rewrite the laws of physics. Inside the memorial chamber of Child's Justice, Jack's paper airplane continued its eternal spin. Around it, the faces of the lost children watched as humanity's vengeance neared its end. 40 minutes remaining, Dr. Emma announced. Their leaders are still debating. Admiral West touched his paper airplane pin. Open a channel again. His voice boomed across space once more. For every minute you delay, we will remove another moon. When we run out of moons, we move on to planets. Your protocols mean nothing to us. The Star Collective's defenses began powering down. Their ships moved aside. On the surface of their world, crowds gathered in the streets, watching the human vessel that had turned their military might into nothing. We have movement, Tactical reported. A small transport is launching from their government center. The transport approached Child's Justice slowly. Inside were 10 Star Collective officials, the ones who had planned and executed the first contact demonstration that had killed Jack and the other children. They're surrendering themselves, communications confirmed. They've signed full confessions. Admiral West looked at the tactical display, where the Star Collective's remaining moons hung in space. He thought of the children in the Mars Dome, of their final curious looks at the light that would end their lives. Bring them aboard, he ordered. They will face human justice. He turned to Dr. Emma. Power down the main weapons, but leave them on standby, just in case they need another demonstration of our parameters. Throughout the galaxy, news spread quickly. Humanity had moved a planet across space to avenge their children. The Star Collective's mighty protocols meant nothing in the face of human determination. And in orbit around their capital world, Child's Justice waited silently, a constant reminder of what happens when you harm what humanity holds most precious.